Welcome back everyone for video 2 of 3, where I go through and show you every part we know so far in Armored Core 6. In this video we'll be going over all of the inner parts and the tunings, which will include your boosters, generator, SCS, expansions, OS tuning, and your system unlocks. And much like video number 1, there'll be a couple of minutes of intro, but feel free to check the timestamps and skip straight over to the parts. And once again, I want to say I couldn't do it by myself, so I want to give a shout out to everybody who made it possible. The list of other content creators that made this possible include Armored Core Legacy, Boomstick Gaming, Cleric, Dongles Records, Dom's Roundtable, Easy Allies, Famitsu Tube, Fextra Life, Fighting Cowboy, IGN, Iron Pineapple, Noisy Pixel, Ouroboros, PC Gamer, Ruben925, Skill Up, Smogetown, The Lore Hunter, Vatividya, Writing on Games, Yong Yeah, as well as Zero Lenny. Thank you all so much. You're all a big part of why this community is growing at such a rapid rate. Keep up the good work. Since we'll be discussing the inner parts and unlocks in this one, for anybody who hasn't watched through the new gameplay footage, there's a new section in AC6 called OS Tuning, or Operating System Tuning, where you can use OS chips that you attain from the arena, and likely via other means, to give yourself stat boosts, sort of like leveling up in other games, and kind of similar to Human Plus in the older Armored Core games. It's going to increase your stats, the damage you do, your defenses, etc. as you work your way through the game, and likely will have a relatively substantial gameplay impact, not only towards the late game of your first run-through, but especially in New Game Plus when you go back through and some of the earlier enemies are weaker, you'll likely be able to just mow through them. But they might increase their strength. We don't really know how New Game Plus is going to function yet, outside of giving us the ability to unlock multiple endings. Also included in your OS tuning is a category called System Unlocks, which include your Boost Kick, where you get to boost forward and kick enemies, Manual Aiming, where you can turn off your lock-on altogether, Quick Turn, which is fairly self-explanatory, Weapon Bays, which lets you hold arm weapons on your back instead of having back-fired weapons, and you'll be able to switch them out with your primary weapon, just like in Armored Core 5 and Verdict Day. It also includes Weight Control, which not only gives you the ability to purge weapons or just drop them to lower your weight, but also to start the mission overweight, and while it'll likely really slow you down and give a big detriment to your energy use, you might can fire off something really large and then drop it. Interestingly, they also include a pseudo weapon and frame part in this category, which are your expansion slots, which include Assault Armor, Pulse Protection, and Terminal Armor, and likely more that you'll unlock later in the game. I find the system to unlock them a little bit odd here in that they're equipped on your AC just like a weapon in your expansion slot, but you unlock them via the OS tuning screen with the OS chips we talked about before. If you're curious what each of these looks like and you want to know just a little bit more about them, I'm trying to gather some footage of it. I'll definitely try to get together a video going over just the expansion slots, so stay tuned for that one. And just like in the first video in this series, I want to mention that this is not all of the parts in the game, by far. This is about roughly a third of what we're going to get. If you take all 3 videos together, it's 108 parts, while we know that we're going to be getting right around 300. The one thing we still don't really know the answer to is if we're going to get more under the category of OS tuning. We don't know if we're going to get any more expansion parts than we already have. Maybe we'll get something like Exceed Orbits, or something from a different generation. I don't expect we'll see any more buff categories, since this covers most of your major ones that you would expect, but maybe. Though there is probably the potential for more system unlocks. I'm not entirely sure what they would be. We already have kicking, quick turning, etc., etc. But who knows, maybe there's something really unique there. Maybe drop a comment down below if you can think of anything interesting that would go under OS tuning as far as system unlocks or expansion slots that we haven't seen yet, because we just don't know if this is all of them. I for one certainly hope not, and I hope we see a lot more. An interesting thing too, and I think I mentioned it in my first garage breakdown video, is that the generators had a stat called cooling on them. And we knew that heat wasn't coming back into this game, at least not in the same form that it had been before. But not too long after that video released, From Software did come out and say that not all of the stat names or categories were finalized, so cooling has been removed, it looks like, from the generators. Now I'll have to do a little bit more research into it to see if it has just been replaced by a different stat or renamed, or maybe it's a hidden stat, or maybe it's just been taken out altogether. I'm of the personal theory that it probably just doesn't show up anymore, but it's likely related to the cooldown of your weapons, especially melee and energy weapons. But at the same time, I think it maybe makes sense to have ones that are more geared towards energy weapons or more geared towards melee weapons, and that affect your weapon cooldown as far as being able to fire those energy-based weapons more often. I don't know, I'll have to look farther into it. If you've looked at the old generators and the new ones and you have an idea of what happened to the cooling, let me know in the comments. Did they just change its name? Did it shift to a different stat? Or does it appear to be hidden now? Now I'm curious. But with all that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into the parts. So if you enjoyed the list, don't forget to like the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel, etc, etc. You know the drill by now. And I'll see you next time for part 3, where we go over the arm and shoulder units, otherwise known as the weapons. That's what everybody wants to see, right?
We're never gonna get this far. We're never gonna get this far. Trust me. And even if you try so hard, we're never gonna get this far. We're never gonna get this far. Trust me. Just let me see where I could be if destiny would take me flying. God, I'm falling like all these stars covered up by the